All right. So, like we talked about, and our learning goals are the same, so I'm not going to put them on the screen, but I do want to make sure that we remember. Number one, I can explain how conflict positively and negatively changed the ancient Greek city-states. So here's what that means for you. Here's what you need to do. I can provide reasons from the Iliad that problems and disagreements over things like land and water, over things like economic resources, trade, government types. And I guess we could add one for the Iliad, because what was the big conflict in the Iliad over?
Trojan War.
What was the conflict that started the Trojan War? Why did they go to Troy? About what? What was the disagreement about? Oh, we should know this. This has been on the a lady, right? It was over Helen of Troy. So, we need to be able to understand how that conflict helped and hurt the Greek city-state. But the cool thing with this story, it is also going to have some social structure stuff. Because remember, we are going to see, and we've already started to see, how Greeks felt about women. Right? We saw that with the thing with Chryseis, and we saw that with the fact that women were kind of taken as one of the spoils of war. So we got stuff where we learned about the social structure from the story. We also remember the story itself. Is it fiction? Yes. So this is one of our achievements for ancient Greece. So this also is going to help us to understand how the Greeks viewed their world, how the Greeks created a common culture, and how the Greeks understood human behavior. Okay? So we're getting a lot of different learning goals hit, even though there's only that one that is up there. So remember, we've got 10 minutes for how we're going to read it. Yesterday, I think we got to about here, right? Agamemnon refused to give Chryseis back his daughter. Did we get to? Cool. So, because Agamemnon did not follow the cultural norm, Agamemnon was supposed to be like, yeah, you gave me this ransom, I'm going to give you your daughter back. Agamemnon didn't do that. What did Agamemnon do instead? Yeah.
He refused to
Right, he refused to give back the daughter. And was he cool about it or not?
No.
No. Remember, he kind of, if I were a 7th grader in 2025, I would say he kind of crashed out. Right? And remember, he then threatened Chryseis. And because he threatened Chryseis, Chryseis got really sad. He prayed to Apollo. Apollo then heard his prayer and agreed to send something to Persia, or to the Greeks. What did Apollo send to the Greeks? The plague. Now, in the book, did it actually say that it was the plague, or did it use figurative language? It used figurative language. And what was the figurative language that it used?
Apollo shot arrows at the soldiers.
He shot those arrows, right? Right? He shot those arrows. That was the figurative language. Because it wasn't real arrows, the arrows were the plague. And remember, we compared that to what other mythological feature that shot arrows? Cupid, right? So for the ancient Greeks, anytime something happened out of nowhere quickly, you got shot with an arrow. Love came out of nowhere, you got shot with Cupid's arrow. A sickness came out of nowhere, you got shot with Apollo. Okay? So that kind of brings us up to where we are. Correct? Okay, here we go. So we should have story maps out. We are to the next part of our story. We've got 10 minutes, so let's get to it. For 9 whole days, Apollo shot his arrows among the people. But upon the 10th day, Achilles called them to assembly. He was inspired to do so by Athena, who had compassion on the Greeks. When all the Greek soldiers got together, Achilles rose and spoke among them. Sons of Greece, he said, I deem and say that we should now turn to go home, for we would escape the destruction. We are being cut down and killed by war. We are also being cut down and killed by this plague and pestilence. Let us ask a priest or a prophet or someone who can tell the future why the god Apollo is so angry with us. The next one's coming up. Why the god Apollo is so angry with us. Is it that we have broken a promise? Did we forget to give a sacrifice or a prayer? Whatever the reason is, we should find out, we should give an offering so that Apollo will not be mad at us and will take this plague away from us. After speaking these words, Achilles sat down. The next one's going to come up pretty quick, so make sure you're getting this. Achilles sat down. And Calcas, the son of Thestor, the wisest of all the prophets, the man who knew things about the past, the present, and the future, stood up to speak. Yes, this is the same Calcas who Apollo spoke to and prophesied the victory on the way to Troy. With sincerity and goodwill in his heart, Calcas began to speak. Achilles, the one who is loved by the heavens and Mount Olympus, you asked me to tell you about why Apollo is so angry. And I will tell you. But first, listen carefully to my words and consider what I say. Consider it carefully. I need for you to swear an oath, a promise before the God, that if I reveal why Apollo is so upset, that you will protect me. For I know that when I reveal why the god Apollo is so mad, there will be one who rules, one who will be angered, one who will seek revenge. A plain and simple man like me cannot stand against the anger of this king. Yes, he might swallow his displeasure now and act like everything is okay. Next one coming up. But he will wait and seek revenge later. So, before I reveal why Apollo is upset, will you protect me, Achilles? And Achilles answered him, fear not, but speak as it was given to you from the heavens by Apollo. Calcas, the gods have given you this gift. The oracles reveal to you why Apollo is upset. And I swear an oath before Mount Olympus, before Apollo himself, that whoever you reveal, whether it be a Greek, whether it even be Agamemnon, our leader, shall not lay a hand on you as long as I live. At this point, the speaker Calcas began to speak boldly. The god Apollo is not angry about us missing a vow or forgetting to give a sacrifice. He is angry on behalf of his high priest Calcas, who was disrespected by Agamemnon when Agamemnon did not take the ransom and give his daughter back. Therefore, Apollo has sent these evils upon us. And make no mistake, until Apollo is appeased, there will be more evil sent our way. Now, here is what Apollo demands in order to appease him. First, Agamemnon must give the girl back to her father Chryses, and he must do so without taking the ransom money. He must give up the fee that Chryses originally gave. Are we good to go to the next one?
No. How much
No.
money was the ransom?
Don't know, but they said it was a fair amount, but that's a good
Could
question.
you go back for
Go back for a second? Okay. In addition to Agamemnon restoring the girl, we must prepare a sacrifice at Apollo's shrine for the god. With these words, Calcas sat down, and Agamemnon rose in anger. His heart was black with rage, and his eyes flashed fire as he scowled and stared down Calcas. And he said, "You seer of evil! You never prophesy anything good for me. No, it is never smooth with you. The things concerning me are always filled with evil and dread. You have brought me neither comfort nor performance in your job. And now you come among the Greeks saying that Apollo has sent this plague because I would not take a ransom for this girl, the daughter of Chryses? I have set my heart on keeping her in my own house because I love her more than I love my wife Clymestra.
Ooh.
Because she is more pretty than my wife,
Oh.
she is smarter than my wife,
Oh.
and she is a better cook than my wife.
Oh. Bro's wife right now.
Right? Told y'all these stories were full of drama. Love Island doesn't have anything on this.
She is my wife.
She's better than my wife.
What if she is his wife?
She is not.
Oh.
Fun side note,
Oh.
if you know stuff about Greek mythology, and then we'll get back, because remember, we only have 10 minutes. Fun side note, his wife goes on to axe murder somebody. So for him to be like, yeah, I'm going to bring this other wife home, that's bold, right? Okay, so we are going to refocus here, right? So Calcas reveals that Apollo is mad because Agamemnon refuses the ransom. He has to give the girl back for free. Agamemnon is basically saying, I love her. I want to marry her, right? She's better than my wife, which is kind of diabolical.
Kind of crazy.
Right?
No, not kind.
So here's what's going to happen, because there's more to this story. So he says all this. I love her. She's prettier than my wife. She's smarter than my wife. She's a better cook than my wife. And he says she's a better weaver than my wife, which was a big deal for ancient Greeks. Yet still, I will give her up if I must. For I would have my Greek people live and not die. However, if I am going to give up my prize, you must find me a new wife. Or I alone among the Greeks will be without a prize for our assaults. This is not well. This is not right. For I am your leader. You, all of you, behold, that my prize will not go unless you replace her. And that's not quite 10 minutes, but we're going to stop there because, well, we can go for about another minute. But it's going to leave us in a weird spot when we end. That's a natural breaking point, but we'll go ahead a little bit more. So, Achilles answered, most noble son of Atreus, the one who we are jealous of above all others, how shall we find you another girl? There's no girl store. And those we have took from the cities that we have conquered have already been awarded. We surely cannot go and take somebody else's prize because you denied the ransom the first time. Give the girl, therefore, back to her dad. and we will make you a deal. I swear before Zeus himself, if the gods allow us to ransack the city of Troy, we will let you pick 3 times the treasure than the rest of us to make up for this. Then Agamemnon said, Achilles, as brave as you are, do you really think you are going to outwit me and be smarter than me? Are you really going to sit there and keep your own prize while I sit tamely by and lose and give up the girl just because you say so? Let the Greeks find me a prize that is a fair exchange for the girl that I will give up. If they cannot, I'll come and take your girl, Achilles, or your girl, Ajax, or your girl, Odysseus. And whoever sees me coming will be fearful and hate to see me go. But because of this, we can wait. For right now, let us draw a ship and find a crew so that we might prepare the offering so that Apollo will be appeased and will forgive us. And we are going to pause right
Bro's
there.
girl cannot be that bad, bro.
Oh, I don't know.
Why did he even marry
How
her?
did the daughter feel? Was she right?
That is a fantastic question. So if you didn't hear it, how did the daughter feel? This is going to sound harsh. They didn't care. Because remember, this was part of the social structure. Remember how I told you this is going to give us an insight into how Greeks thought? So for ancient Greeks, women were kind of an afterthought. The thought for women, they didn't really have rights. They didn't really, their opinion, their thought didn't really matter. Remember we read the myth about Pandora's box? And we learned that the Greek men had this really weird idea when it came to Greek women. On one hand, remember the first woman was created with all the best gifts of all the gods and goddesses. So they thought women were this like perfect gift. It was all of them. So remember she got like wisdom from Athena, she got beauty from Aphrodite, right? So they thought women on one hand were these amazing beings that had all the best qualities of all the gods and goddesses. On the other hand, why was Pandora put on earth? As punishment for the men taking the gift of fire from not Pandora, from Prometheus. From Prometheus. Right? So, as we think about this information, this thing that we see about how women were considered the prize of war, this information about how women didn't really have a say, this is stuff that you can be putting into your answer about the social structure of Greece. This stuff is evidence that lets us know the Greek social structure. Because remember, it's not just rich and poor and middle class. It's also what were the jobs of men and women, how were men and women treated and stuff like that. So that was a fantastic question. Honestly, her thoughts wouldn't matter. Which stinks to say and sounds really harsh, but that's kind of the way that it was. Okay? So again, as you get to your Greeks chart, and we look at like the social structure stuff, make sure you're putting this in there. Make sure you are addressing the fact that women didn't really have a say. Their opinion, their thoughts didn't matter. Good thing is, it's not like that in Greece anymore, right? If you were to go fly on a plane to Greece today, it would not be like that. Now, does that mean everything is super equal? No, but it's not like that anymore, okay? So, before I stop recording, because you are going to have some time to kind of work through some things, okay? I want to talk a little bit about the Peloponnesian War. I'm just going to give us a little bit of a background. This is going to be super quick, okay? So I'm going to talk about the Peloponnesian War, and then you will have an opportunity to work on your study guides for the quiz that we will be having next Wednesday, okay? The study guide, everybody say bye to Deputy Holker.
That was awesome.
It's going to be because they're doing the, hey, sir.
Again?
Sir.
Why
Okay.
is he leaving?
Because he has to go do his rounds and stuff. Okay. So. So here's kind of the thing with the Peloponnesian War, and then you will see on classwork on modules, you will see the digital study guide and how the quiz is set up. I will go into a little bit more detail about that tomorrow, but I don't want our recording to get too long. So the Peloponnesian War. This is going to be a super big deal. I really need for us to focus in. I need for us to kind of understand what's going on. And I think, yeah, we're just audio today. We don't have video. Okay, so remember at the end of the Persian War, the way the Greeks win is they basically trick the Persian Navy into fighting in an area where their big, slow, clunky ships can't move. So Athens pretty much not totally destroys the Persian Navy, but they put a big dent in it. Remember, they sent 800 warships. The Persians sunk over 200 of them. That's 1/4 of their Navy gone in one day. They lost 1/4 of their Navy in one day. That is huge, right? And so what winds up happening is since the Persian Navy is so decimated, Athens now becomes the major naval superpower. And like you have heard me say, whoever controls the seas, whoever has the strongest navy, wins. It's one of the reasons why we spend so much of our budget on our navy, right? It's one of the reasons why we have so many aircraft carriers. I think I've shared this with some other classes. Yes, quickly.
That's why we were so mad whenever Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Yeah, that's why we were so mad when Pearl Harbor was bombed. Because the Japanese knew whoever has the strongest navy wins, right? So, not to get all into extracurricular war stuff, but that is a very good point. Thank you for sharing that, right? So, what winds up happening, and this is going to be kind of diabolical, y'all. This is going to be pretty crazy the way this works out. You are going to want to hear this. So, what winds up happening is after the Persian War, Persia, even though they are no longer the strongest empire, does that mean that all of a sudden they were just super weak and not powerful at all? No. Persia is still a very strong, very big empire. They just aren't the strongest empire anymore, right? So what happens is Athens, who now has this super strong navy, they basically go, because remember we learned with our geography part, there are lots of little islands and stuff like that all around you. So Athens basically goes to these islands and they're like, look, we as Athens are strong enough to defend against Persia. Y'all, not so much. So Athens basically comes up with this thing called the Delian League. You will need to know what the Delian League is. That is something you will need to put in your politics grades. The Delian League. So here's the big idea behind the Delian League. Greece goes to these city-states and they're basically like, hey, you need to join this group. The Delian League will be a group where we will all put money in. We will all pay dues. We will use those dues to buy warships. We will use those dues to protect any group that's in the Delian League from the Persians. So if you're this really small city-state and Persia attacks you, the Navy will come and protect you. Okay? So this is a group that's a military alliance. Has anybody in this class ever heard of NATO? Does anybody who's heard of NATO know what NATO is or what it stands for? What is it?
Isn't it like a group of groups that comes together, and if one of them is attacked by an outsider or something, then they all come together and just...
Yeah. And what were you saying?
It's like the U.S. and like 30 other countries or something that all have this big group. I don't know what it stands for, but it's all the governments and the military.
Exactly. So we are definitely on the right track. And this is one of those times where ancient civilizations and modern civilizations are pretty similar. So NATO stands for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. NATO was started at the end of World War II, or just a couple years after, because all the groups in Europe was like, well, if Russia attacks, we need to be able to kind of protect ourselves, because Russia was starting to get this communist bloc of countries together. So NATO is still around. And if you've been paying attention to current events, this idea of NATO is kind of at the center of what's been going on with Ukraine and stuff like that, right? And this is part of the reason why Ukraine is trying to become part of NATO, and part of the reason why Russia is like, no, we don't want them to become part of NATO. And Poland became part of NATO, and some other countries have. So the idea behind NATO is very similar to the idea behind the Delian League. We're going to be a group of countries that all pitch in and pay in. And if you remember it's not so current anymore, but when President Trump was president the first time, one of the first things that he was really talking about is how the United States is paying too much money for NATO. We're putting more in and other countries aren't putting in a fair amount. And that was something that he didn't run on, but it was one of the first things that he wanted to do, right? So the idea is the same, right? So NATO is the United States, Canada, a bunch of countries in Europe, okay? If an outsider attacks one of those countries, all of the countries in NATO will go to war together. As of now, the only time it's been used was after September 11th, right? And so that's why when a bunch of countries went to go fight, it was a NATO group. Now, just like the United States is the strongest military in NATO, Athens was the strongest military in the Delian League. Yeah.
I was gonna ask which country started NATO.
It was a group of countries. So it was like United States, Canada, England, France, and a bunch of others. I think I might have the date wrong. I think it was like 1948 or something like that. So it was after World War III. Yeah, quickly.
How would other places hear about wars that were happening? Like how would they know who won? Like other places.
Back then, that's a fantastic question. It goes into one of our greats, economics and trade, right? As countries, because remember, trade is still going on. People are still sailing around. So it's like Persia lost, right? Persia lost. So as people go and as they trade and go to sail, because people like to yap, people like to talk. So it kind of spreads as trade spreads, the same way cultural diffusion happens, right? So no, they didn't have email to send it like that, but as people are going around trading routes and stuff like that, it would happen. As the Persian army is going back to Persia looking all dejected, people figure it out, stuff like that. So yeah, they definitely had ways. Great question. Okay, so back to the Delian League. Here's where it starts to get crazy. So Athens, since they're the strongest group, what they start doing is instead of saying, hey guys, do you want to be part of the Delian League? They're basically starting to be like, you need to be part of the Delian League. And they bully other city-states into joining their Delian League because you have to pay money to be part of the Delian League, right? So this Delian League is starting to get a bunch of money. And they're supposed to use that money for military protection for everybody. What winds up happening is Athens moves all of the money from the Delian League, from the agreed island of Delos, which is where the bank was. They're basically like, this isn't safe. We're going to take all this money. We're going to put it to Athens where it can be safe.
Oh.
So they take all the money that all these groups put in for protection. They take it to Athens. Now, here's what I need for you to remember. According to what we learned, what happened to the city of Athens during the Persian War? We should know.
Oh, it was burnt down.
It was burned to the ground.
Yes.
So Athens gets burned to the ground. Okay? Athens is still burned to the ground when all this is going on. So you've got the strongest, most powerful city-state, and it looks like a dump because it was burned down. So what Athens starts to do under Themistocles is they take this money that people are paying into the Delian League, they take that money and they start using it instead of buying ships, instead of paying for sailors, instead of paying for troops, they take that money and start to rebuild Athens. So all those cool things that we see that are like, when you think of ancient Greece, when you think of all the buildings and stuff that you see and the statues that you see, all that was paid for with money from the Delian League that was supposed to go for boats. So they definitely got mad. Here's what it would be like. Pretend you and your friends were having a sleepover, right? And your friend is like, hey, we're going to order some pizzas. And everybody is like, hey, we hate Hawaiian pizza. And your friend is like, okay, no problem. Everybody send me $5. We're going to order all the pizzas. When you get to the house for the sleepover, the pizzas are going to be here. They're going to be hot. They're going to be delicious. So everybody pays their money for the pizza for the slumber party, right? You get there, your friend who loves Hawaiian pizza has ordered nothing but Hawaiian pizzas. How would you feel about that?
I'm throwing hands. Yeah.
Right? So this is how the Greek city-states felt. They were upset. But they can't do anything about it. So what winds up happening is Sparta and some other city-states start a different group because they see what the Delian League is doing. And they're basically like, look, if you don't want to be part of this Athenian league that's taking your money, come join our league, which is called the Peloponnesian League. So you've got these city-states that are joining with Sparta. You've got other city-states that are joining with Athens. Right? So what do we infer is going to happen? A war, a civil war is going to happen. It's like Avengers Civil War. Remember how the Avengers split up into Team Cap and Team Iron Man? It is the same thing. There's Team Sparta, which is Peloponnesian League. There's Team Athens, which is Delian. Yeah.
But wouldn't they regret not buying like ships and equipment because now Sparta has all this like technically like allies?
So that's a great question. Would the Athenians regret not using the money for weapons? So here's the thing. The Athenians, they had enough to protect themselves. And that's why the other city-states were mad, because they basically put in this money that was supposed to build ships for everybody. Athens is like, we've got enough to protect us. We're good. And then they took the rest of the money to pay. Now, Sparta does not have a navy. Sparta is all about land troops, right? We learned that they have this really hardcore army, but they don't really work on naval stuff. Because remember, Sparta is in the middle of the Peloponnese. They're not really by water. So, Athens having a navy, in a way, doesn't affect, they aren't affected by Sparta, because it's not like Sparta's going to have a big navy that they have to fight with, right? What they have to worry about for Sparta is land troops and army. Okay. So, that's kind of the background information for the Peloponnesian War. We're going to learn a little bit more about it tomorrow, but that's what you kind of need to know. So again, think of it in terms of like Avengers Civil War. You've got the Delian League, which is Athens and its people. You've got the Peloponnesian League, which is Sparta and its people. They're going to butt heads. It's going to turn to a civil war. I don't remember if I've asked this class before as we conclude. Anybody in here ever, oh, it's too bad Deputy Holker left because I know he's all about Assassin's Creed. Anybody in here ever played Assassin's Creed Odyssey? You played Odyssey? All right. So, you know in Odyssey how in the background, like on the map, you can join battles and either be on the Peloponnesian or the Delian League. So, if you've ever played that game or if you've watched somebody play it, you've kind of seen this stuff. And I think I told this before, if you've ever played that game, the beginning opening cutscene is the Battle of Thermopylae that we learned about yesterday. Okay? Any other questions about this before I let us get going on our study guide? Okay, cool. So the study guide is a digital study guide. You can open it up in our modules part, and you can